Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today, I'm doing some stuff. You may have noticed that the lighting has changed a bit. I now have a light there instead of over there, where it previously was. So, that's good. But this video is mostly about something I saw it today, and remembered it, even though it was something that I had seen a long time ago. This was on is, I can never remember his name, Jeremy James, who is a movie reviewer. He did a review on Firefly, and when I was just getting into Firefly, I was trying to figure out what it is. I looked at a review for it, and I currently still watch him and subscribe, but I never remember his name. So anyway, that's his name. I had to go and write it down on a piece of paper. But yeah. Anyway, so what it was basically he was saying how Firefly was really good. And then they had the series, it was cancelled, then they made the film, and now it exists as the comics, which you can see about there. I have 3. Yeah, I don't think I have any others. I have 3, I'm sort of trying to build up the collection-ish, and a couple of papery versions, whatever comics are actually made of, and then those complete series ones, which are the ones that you can see there. So anyway, but what it was basically, he said that he would love to see Firefly maybe come back as a Telltale series. And I did start thinking about that, and I saw it this morning, and I remembered about it. I'm not sure it's right after he does the review, and then usually he then goes straight on with his outro, but he didn't. He had this little bit, and I don't usually watch that little bit, so, and I'd never really seen that bit, so I watched it, and I actually heard some quite interesting things. But yeah, but the thing of Telltale making it, I was quite interested by it, and I just started thinking, okay, how could they make it if they were? Like, if I was making it, if I worked with Telltale, how would I make a Firefly story? One thing that I thought about was, right now they have done quite a lot of stuff. You know, they've done, they did The Walking Dead. When he was showing that, he showed The Walking Dead. But now they've done Batman, they've done Guardians of the Galaxy, and Minecraft story mode, and I was thinking there are aspects in each one that can be sort of carried across. So they have almost had a little bit of experience with each. Just remembered also that light's gone. That's really annoying because I don't have it. I'm gonna get a hook or something so I can hang the shoulder holster back there. But anyway, and then so they have had a few things, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy also had a little bit of an aspect about it that I thought was quite good. How you can choose to go with the government or you can go with the criminals. And when you're selling, basically, Thanos' body? I'm really hoping I'm getting that right. I don't know much of DC, so I'm probably getting it right, but yeah. So Thanos' body. I don't think that's a spoiler, it came out ages ago. So yeah. And I thought that was a sort of Firefly-ish moment, and then you got, like, the spaceship, and you're walking around that, and then they're doing jobs for people in some ways-ish. So it feels like Guardians of the Galaxy still has enough stuff from it that they would have had a little bit of experience. And I started thinking, okay, how would I do it? Well, I couldn't think of any way to use the original characters. There's a problem there. When would you base it? You can't base it before the comics. Well, you can, but you need a good way of synthesizing voices. If you want to base it before the film. The film, from what I know, takes place 8 months after the first episode, as Mal says that Simon and River have been on the ship for 8 months. I'm not necessarily sure how long the series was based over. Originally, I thought it was based over a year. Apparently not. But I would say there's probably about a month or two's difference between the film and the series. Because of the way that the ship's changed from selling the laser pistol, which I'm assuming he did after the series finished. He bought the new look for the cargo bay, the new sort of dropping bit on it. He fixed up the ship a bit and changed it around. That's the explanation for why everything looks a little bit different. In particular, the cargo bay. But anyway, but you can't base anything before that. Not only, it's not because of the thing that it would, as I said, that time frame is kind of small, and you can't have a very big adventure in there because that would knock on with maybe the films unless you would have figured out some way around it. So the way I thought, and also not only that, the person who plays Shepherd Book, Ron Glass, died a few years ago of respiratory failure. So as I said, unless you're able to synthesize his voice, that's not going to happen. The other thing that you could do, so I would say base it further ahead. Once again, going on with the comics, if you were to try and make a story in between the comics, like right now, in No Power in the Verse, which is the most recent comic, they are setting back up their reputation. After the film, they went into hiding. They just basically stopped doing jobs, I think. I'm not sure. They might have kept doing jobs, but they were mostly in hiding for as long as they possibly could. And then they would come back out and do an illegal job that would keep them off the radar, and they'd go back into hiding. Until, I don't want to spoil it, but, something happens, and then they come back. And then they're forced back out. In that comic in particular, in No Power in the Verse, they are stealing toilet paper at the moment. That's the kind of jobs that they have to take. They steal toilet paper and then they go and sell it to people. Because that's how they've got to start. Their reputation has sort of been lost because they've not been around, so they have to sort of build it back up. That would be a good place to go, because obviously then, they are working up. So that was sort of where I put it. Somewhere linking to the comics, but somewhere sort of maybe after No Power in the Verse, but not too long after, because No Power in the Verse had a peak of this drama. I was maybe after the next one, or if anything, base it a little bit before, where they're taking those really small jobs. Something really quite small, and then something big sort of comes along, but it's not. But then maybe it goes wrong or something, and then that's why they're still there. Anyway, character, then this next bit. So then, who would you play as? And originally I thought Mal. There's nothing wrong with that. You would play as Mal. Mal is technically the main character of the series already. Some people don't really establish that, but the story is mostly revolved around River, though it is done mostly through Mal's perspective. Even though it's wide enough range that it's quite hard, but obviously the majority of the scenes are done and focused on Mal. So he is sort of the main character. That and the theme song is also about him. So, there's that sort of problem there. Well, that's not a problem, but the problem is that Mal has a very certain way on how he deals with problems. One, he never abides by really any rules in any sort of society. He seems to break at least one rule in every society. That's something that's a bit hard, because if you have what Telltale do, and it's a multi-choice game with their conversations, it's hard to give that aspect to Mal. If you look at episode 1 of Serenity, or if you watch the film Serenity, ignore episode 2. That one's not great for showing this point. But he is quite cold, and he doesn't do what you would usually expect someone to do. And I think some people call them anti-heroes, but they're not really anti-heroes, because they're not really heroes either. This is the other thing. They're not necessarily good guys. They don't act on goodwill and things like that. They act on goodwill for their own crew, especially Mal. But they don't act widely like that towards others. And that's the problem. Once again, when you have a choice game, that's up to the player. And then that gets complicated because Mal slowly opens up to people. He doesn't instantly open up to them. Someone comes on his ship, they're basically invading his home. He didn't like the first people. The main reason he brought on Shepherd Book, Simon Tam, and River Tam and Dubston, I don't know what his first name was. I can't remember what it was. He then left. It was literally just for money. His main drive is money, and if you give the control to the player, they may not want to do stuff for money. They may want to be the good guy, but then that doesn't match Mal's personality and can sort of ruin the story or so for at least the fans. So I thought, why use one of the setup characters who are already established? And there aren't that many characters who go out on the jobs. There's Jane, who's the other. So Jane, Zoe, and Mal. They are the only ones who go off on jobs. usually. So I thought, why not either introduce a new character or go with one of the new ones that have been introduced. So there are two new characters who are main characters who have been introduced, which are I think it's Iris and Bea. It's in Bea. I think it's Iris because I always remember not Osiris. Osiris. I might get the comic. Hang on. I'm gonna grab the comic. I'm so annoyed that I can't remember this. Right, I gotta find the name. Where is she? Yeah, Iris. Oh, okay. Iris she's a new character-ish. That's her there. She is basically the same to River. She went to the academy as well. She was tampered with like River. They are the same, basically-ish. I think Osiris has slightly better mental control than River, who is still a little bit childish and a little bit, I don't want to say insane or mad, but, you know, she's a little bit off still, whilst Osiris is pretty much back to normal. But they're both pretty good, but also they haven't really been established much. Then there is also, I'll actually find another picture with Bea. Yeah, but also there is Bea, who once again hasn't been fully established, really. She is a main character. She is sort of still there. I'm looking for this picture. But yeah, so she's not a brown coat in many ways, but she is. But her father was one. I'm assuming she's quite young, so I don't know, could work slightly better. I cannot find a good picture of her. She was always in a group of people, and I don't want to get conversations mixed in with it. I might just go back to where I was. But yeah, so right, there's Bea. There. Right, I'm trying not to get words in because I think you can get copyrighted for sentences. I'm not sure. I've seen people using comics and they blur out the writing. But anyway, so that's basically what. So Bea could also be quite a good character. She's not very well established yet. She's only been in this one and the previous one, which is Leaves on the Wind. Yes, I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm right. Or Those Left Behind. I can't remember. One of those two. But anyway, she's been introduced before No Parent Verse. And so, she could be interesting to go with. You could get some backstory out. Or you could go with a new option, which would be to... Just quickly reading this. That's an introduction to them. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so they could introduce a brand new character. This is also risky because of but that's quite a risky thing because of the characters and comics and things that still continuing on the story. If the show had been cancelled, the film had been done, but there were no comics, that would be okay because there's no continuing story. You could introduce a character and it doesn't wind up with the other stuff. The final option, in which you can sort of get the characters working well, is to get Joss Whedon onto this. Then you have someone who actually knows what he wants the characters to do. This, once again, could fix up dialogue with Mal, so that then you can have the right dialogue and things like that. So every decision that he makes still feels like Mal, but is still personal. So he could, because he has made decisions without the need for money, like in Heart of Gold. But, you know, and then you've got sort of all of that. So he can, because he would probably be able to set up the group quite well, he'll be able to make it so that the conversation options seem like they would all be things Mal would say, you just choose which one he says. and which decision he makes, but all of them are in the options he would make. So yeah, story-wise, I don't know, maybe go with something like what the comics are doing, a story which is sort of played out episodically, because these comics do come out one by one, the paper copies come out, and then when they're done, they become these versions. After, and then you get stuff like cover art things and sort of mini stories at the end. And yeah, so could be really quite fun to do. As I said, creating a unique character would also work because of having Joss Whedon, because then, you know, it's a character he can apply to the unset things. Some of these writers aren't exactly there, because I think Joss Whedon is he's the executive producer on this one. I don't think that makes him the proper person who actually wrote the story, but anyway. So, yeah, and also, so pretty much then you can play as any character, you can do any of those things, and with Joss Whedon, then that means that everything can be canon and still fit okay. He could necessarily have a way that it was meant to go, the way he saw it going, but then you still have all the options which feel like that's the way it could have gone. Having the ship, things like that, I would more add in maybe a little bit more of a free roam side to it. Like, Telltale don't really have free roam sides, but it would be nice to have a little bit more of this freedom to sort of choose what you want. Like, you can sort of go to the ship, and if you want, you can maybe take on a job on the side of doing what the main story wants, like a little bit of like a side quest where you can go and steal something. And I don't know, that could also be if they want like little, like maybe like DLC, almost like you can buy these sort of extra jobs. That's technically that sort of counteract the thing of it being a job, that you have to pay to do a job to then get paid later on in digital money. But it could work, or they could release DLCs which are like maybe playable versions of like the episodes of the series, or the comics, something like that. So you can almost play some of the comics and do the decisions you would have made in those, but still feel like you're playing as Mal. That's sort of where I think Telltale could go with that if they do take on that idea. I might email them this video or something, I don't know. I might do. I could. But yeah. So this is an idea, as I'm saying, it's not like a unique idea. I didn't come up with this idea myself. It was Jeremy who did come up with the basic idea of them doing it. I've just thought about how they could do it. So anyway, I think that's pretty much all I can think of. So, yeah, like I would like, as I said, so the option to walk around the ship at least by itself, sort of maybe be able to take on jobs by themselves instead of just having the complete main story to do. So you could take on a few randomly generated jobs maybe. And some of them could be basic stuff like going and like you could have the jobs that you don't need to like pay for, like a DLC. You could, but it's like very basic, not very exciting. You go to a planet, you pick up some stuff, and then you go drop it off somewhere else. So you could do that, but then also, but anyway, but it's almost a way around of rebooting the series, but into a visual version instead of a graphic novel. But because the actors all look now more than 10 years, I think they're coming up to about 15 years older. They're coming up to, or they've passed 15 years older than they were in the series, and nearly that same amount for the film. So yeah, so it can sort of be done. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will probably talk about later why I actually quite like Firefly. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.